The history of Native American tribes holds many mysteries and secrets. Of course, Native Americans have their own customs and traditions, and some of these traditions relate to intimate life. For us, these traditions may seem extraordinary. That's exactly what we'll talk about today. Native Americans were not the most peaceful people and often had to fight. Many who went to the battlefield never returned to their communities. As a result, women were left without husbands. Those men who survived took single women under their protection. This was partly why the tradition of polygamy emerged. The age of marriage was quite early. Girls were ready for marriage as early as 14. However, different tribes had different views on premarital relationships. Some required women to wear chastity belts, while in other tribes, intimate life was much freer. However, most communities strived for spiritual and physical closeness to be with a single partner. Therefore, girls preserved their virginity before marriage and were expected to remain faithful to their husbands until the end of their lives. Most tribes were extremely strict about infidelity. If a woman was unfaithful, her hair was shaved off, and she was locked in a dark room. The duration of the punishment was determined by her husband. If this punishment did not correct her behavior and she cheated again, she could have her lip, ear, or nose cut off. But in some tribes, even this was considered a mild punishment. Certain tribes gathered to witness such punishments. Right in front of their fellow tribesmen, a husband would put a leash on his wife and take her into the forest. There, he would tie her to a tree and stand at a distance. The woman was given some space to move, while the husband would take his bow and shoot arrows at his unfaithful wife. Sometimes women were spared, but the question remained, at what cost? In the Cherokee tribe, one man grew tired of his wife's infidelity and apparently decided that she should fully indulge in her adultery. He brought 50 fellow tribesmen and gave his wife over to them. Among the Cheyenne, this practice became a tradition. If a woman shared a bed with another man, the Cheyenne warrior would share his wife with his brothers in arms. Native Americans took intimate life very seriously, and in many tribes, incest was strictly forbidden. In some tribes, wives were even forbidden from any communication with their brothers. If a brother and sister were caught interacting, the punishment could be brutal. A woman could have a bone needle dragged under her skin from her neck down to her heels. There were also special rituals meant to attract good hunting fortune to the tribe. For this, the elders gathered in a tent. A woman would dress in a bison hide and enter the tent to feed the elders. Then she had to leave for the forest and engage in an intimate act with them. It was believed that this ritual would bring success in hunting wild animals. In the Kagaba tribe, men sometimes hide from women, and for good reason. Many men in their position would probably do the same. But why? What makes these men not only refuse to touch women, but even avoid seeing them? The reason lies in a peculiar ritual. Young men in the Kagaba tribe were expected to have their first sexual experience with the most experienced women. To be more precise, with the oldest ones. For many young men, this ritual completely killed any desire for intimate activities, and they were lucky if that desire didn't disappear for life. Some Native Americans, after this experience, would flee into the forest and build their own personal shelters, just to escape this nightmare. In their case, the nightmare was marital duty, but the women would eventually find them and collect their debts. It is believed that the Maya tribe recognized not only male and female genders, but also a third gender. Some accounts claim that tribal leaders would alternate between wearing male and female clothing, as such individuals were considered special. The Maya are also said to have practiced a unique piercing ritual for their reproductive organs. The higher the status of a Mayan man, the more blood he was required to shed during this ritual. This was seen as a sign of respect for the symbol of life's continuation. The Vayot tribe has an interesting legend about the origin of women. They sincerely believed that the first woman in the world was actually a foolish man who failed at almost everything in life. He couldn't fish, couldn't hunt, and even struggled to make fire. The local shaman took pity on this kind-hearted but incompetent man and turned him into a woman. Native American legends can be shocking. For example, there is a legend about conception. Perhaps it was created by women in retaliation for the previous one. The legend states that in order to conceive, a woman had to sleep with various animals. She even managed to give birth to an unknown creature from an opossum. She continued her experiments until she finally gave birth to a human child. Some Native American tribes believed that intimacy with women was impure, and if such an act did occur, it had to be followed by a cleansing ritual in a steam bath. Now that's a reasonable idea. In some tribes, having sex in a wigwam was considered bad luck. If a Native American stored his valuables in his wigwam and dared to engage in intimacy there, he supposedly doomed himself to poverty. Women who engaged in same-sex relationships were generally accepted in Native American tribes. However, men with similar preferences were not allowed to participate in hunting or warfare. When adults noticed that children showed same-sex inclinations, they attempted to correct them. For example, if a girl displayed such tendencies, she was encouraged from an early age to interact more with boys. Some Native American traditions have survived to this day. For example, there is still a tribe where, at the age of 7, boys are separated from the rest of the community and raised separately. There, they are taught warfare and hunting. And I'd like to remind you that my channel has many interesting videos, so check them out when you have time. In the meantime, you can leave a like and subscribe to the channel.